don't care what your sign says. This is unacceptable.
The noise and the smell are violations of the bylaws. You need to clean this up or face the consequences.
This is going to be the voiceover script for your YouTube video, expanded to meet the length and style requirements. You know, sometimes life just hands you a villain, a main character in your own little suburban tragedy. And for me, that person was Veronica. I'm telling you, I'd been living in Crestwood Valley for 5 years, and for 5 years, she'd been the self-appointed queen of the HOA, which really just meant she was an overly nosy neighbor with a badge to ruin people's weekends over the shade of beige they painted their garage. And yeah, I'm gonna call her a Karen, because that's exactly what she was. Only her name was Veronica, and she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life, calling 911 on me for standing on my own 2 feet, on my own land. It all started quietly, almost peacefully. I was up on a little step ladder, just finished hammering the last bracket into a simple, unassuming sign. It was black and white. Nothing fancy, you know? It just said, private property. No trespassing. And it was beautiful. It was the sign of freedom, really. I was wiping a bead of sweat off my forehead, about to step down, when I heard it. That signature, piercing shriek that could only belong to Veronica. She was already screaming into her phone, not talking, screaming like a banshee whose morning coffee had been replaced with lukewarm vinegar. Yes, 911. There's a man trespassing. He's putting illegal signs on my road. Her voice, it just echoed right across the quiet, manicured lawns of Crestwood, bouncing off the perfectly symmetrical brick homes like a siren that had completely lost its mind. I didn't even get a second to breathe in the fresh, summer air before she stormed toward me, waving her free arm like she was conducting a symphony of suburban injustice. And here's where the humor and the sheer audacity of the situation truly hit me. That sign I had just installed, the one she was calling a national emergency over, was placed squarely, definitively, and legally on my land. Not the HOAs, not the communities, not even close to the curb, but a full 6 feet inside the official property line marker. She marched right up until she was practically spitting on my boots, her eyes wide, staring at me like I was a low-level criminal caught pilfering garden gnomes. "You can't put this here," she snapped, her voice breaking a little with the intensity of her moral outrage. "This isn't your land. This is HOA-controlled territory." I didn't argue back, not because she had a point, which she absolutely didn't, but because I was holding a secret, a very big, very expensive secret, that she had zero clue about. See, she thought I was just some random, irritating guy who was trying to block her preferred walking route. Maybe a newcomer who didn't understand the rules of Crestwood. She had no idea that the sliver of land she was claiming belonged to her precious HOA, that specific 50-foot frontage of scrub and dirt, had legally been transferred, deeded, and finalized over to me just last month. And she definitely didn't know the real, deep-down reason I had bought it, or why her entire dramatic, self-righteous act was about to boomerang so hard it would practically take her manicured head off. I just leaned against the freshly set signpost, casual as could be, and said, not shouted, just spoke in a calm, flat voice, "Veronica, you are making a massive mistake right now." But of course, she didn't hear me. It was like she was wearing sound-canceling headphones tuned only to her own self-important monologue. She was too busy yelling into the phone, pacing in tight, frantic circles like she was rehearsing a dramatic closing argument for some ridiculous neighborhood court show. "He is refusing to leave the premises. He's aggressive. He's intimidating," she shrieked, even though I hadn't moved a muscle, standing perfectly still with my hands crossed, watching her performance with what I hoped was a deeply bored expression. Then she did it. The thing that flipped the entire moment from just being an annoying Friday afternoon confrontation into something genuinely dangerous. She stopped pacing, wheeled around, and pointed that perfectly polished index finger right at my chest, like I was a terrorist about to detonate a flower bed, and told the operator, "He's trying to block community land. He has threatened me. Send someone fast." I mean now, I felt my jaw clench. The blood was absolutely boiling in my veins, but I forced myself to stay calm. This was the moment. This was the trap. All I had to do was let her dig her own hole. She was giving me the perfect, undeniable proof. While she kept shouting her ridiculous, panicked lies into the phone, detailing my supposed aggression, she failed to notice the one tiny, critical detail. Tucked high up on the corner of my storage shed, perfectly aimed at the entire scene, was a small, almost invisible blinking red light. My new security system, the state-of-the-art one I'd put in 2 weeks ago, had been recording everything. Audio, video, crystal clarity. Every false word, every theatrical gesture, every single lie she threw out was being meticulously saved to a secure cloud server, timestamped, and verified. She finally hung up, ending the performance with a triumphant sniff, and gave me a smirk. That smug, horrible little smirk that just screams, "I already won." "The cops will be here any minute," she said, stepping closer, puffing out her chest. "And trust me, they always take my side. You're going to be cited and possibly arrested for trespassing." For a second, I honestly almost burst out laughing right in her face. She had absolutely no concept of who she was dealing with. None. She had no clue that the local officers who were about to show up, specifically Officer Miller, who patrols this area, knew me a lot better than they knew her. And she certainly didn't know that Miller had spent the last 2 weeks subtly warning me to watch out for that HOA lady who seems to get off on making entirely baseless and hysterical complaints. She stood there, tapping her foot on my land, looking like a ridiculously overdressed queen waiting for her loyal guards to come and carry out her ridiculous bidding. But the second the black and white patrol car turned the corner onto Crestwood Lane, her whole attitude sharpened like a newly sharpened pencil. She stopped tapping, smoothed down her expensive silk shirt, lifted her chin, and instantly plastered on that sickeningly sweet, fake concerned neighbor smile. It was a masterclass in swift character acting. "Officer, over here," she yelled, waving one of her arms again, practically sprinting toward the car before it had even fully stopped. 2 officers stepped out. Just as I predicted, Officer Miller, a seasoned guy who'd been around forever, and a rookie I didn't recognize, Officer James. Miller gave me that small, almost imperceptible nod, the kind that says, "Yup, here we go again. Just stand back, Ethan." Meanwhile, poor rookie James looked utterly bewildered by Veronica's level 10, dramatic arm flailing. Veronica rushed them, immediately launching into her assault. "Arrest him. He put up an illegal sign. He threatened me. This is HOA land." And Miller held up one hand, a universal gesture for, "Just stop talking, please. Ma'am, calm down. Let's just figure out what's going on." But of course, she didn't calm down. Calming down was not in Veronica's theatrical repertoire. She jabbed her finger dramatically toward the sign, acting like it was an active explosive device about to wipe out the whole neighborhood property value. "This man is trespassing and trying to seize community property. He's a menace." That was my cue. I finally pushed off the signpost and stepped forward, ensuring my voice was firm and clear, cutting right through her hysterical noise. "Officers, if I could interrupt before we go any further, you should know something crucial." Veronica scoffed, a truly theatrical sound of dismissal. "Oh, please. He's lying. He's been causing trouble since the morning. Don't listen to him." Officer Miller turned his attention fully to me, his expression neutral. "Mr. Hayes, do you have proof of your claims?" I simply pointed, first toward the small, dark box on the corner of the shed, and then right past Veronica's enraged, self-satisfied face. "Everything she has said, every single word and dramatic gesture, is recorded in perfect fidelity, officer. And as for the property line marker she is pretending doesn't exist, it is literally right behind her right hip." Veronica spun around, genuinely confused for the first time. The mask cracked. Miller raised an eyebrow, looking directly at her now. "Ma'am, you didn't mention any physical property markers." Her panic was starting to show, the edges of her composure dissolving like cheap sugar in water. But the ultimate, final, show-stopping twist was still sitting quietly, patiently, waiting for the exact right moment, in the passenger seat of my old pickup truck. I hadn't even shown my biggest, most devastating card yet. The one that would not just flip the situation but obliterate her standing in this community forever. This card was going to make Veronica realize she hadn't just picked a fight with a random homeowner. She had picked a fight with the one person who had been systematically preparing to expose the rotten core of the entire Crestwood Valley HOA. She tried to recover fast, pushing the panic down, but the tremor in her voice gave her away. "That marker isn't real," she snapped, trying to sound authoritative. "I've lived here for 11 years. I know where the HOA line is. It's right up to the curb." She said it with such fierce, delusional confidence that Rookie James actually glanced at Miller, as if maybe she was telling the truth after all. That's the classic Karen strategy, right? Confuse them just enough. Talk fast enough. Act bold enough. It usually works on the weak or the uninformed. But Officer Miller had been dealing with this kind of nonsense for 20 years. He wasn't buying it for a second. "Ma'am, step back from the sign," he said firmly, his voice low and commanding, slicing through her hysteria. "We will look at the marker ourselves." She stepped back, but only an inch, still clinging to the idea that the dirt under her feet was consecrated HOA ground. "Fine," she huffed, crossing her arms. "But when you see I'm right, I expect you to issue him a citation and escort him off my community property." I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked the few steps to my truck. "Running away already?" Veronica sneered, the desperation making her sound even more pathetic. I ignored her, opened the driver's side door, and calmly reached in, pulling out a slim, black legal folder. Not a casual folder, but one of those heavy-duty, county-issued, official-looking things. The same one she never, in her wildest, HOA-fueled dreams, imagined I would possess. I held it up, snapped it open, and watched the color drain from her face. I could actually see her brain scrambling, trying to rationalize why I, the trespasser, would be holding something that looked like it belonged in a judge's chambers. Inside the folder was the land transfer document, the official warranty deed, signed by the county registrar, stamped, sealed, verified, and dated exactly 3 weeks ago. I slowly and deliberately handed the entire folder to Officer Miller. He scanned the first page, his eyes moving quickly over the official seals and legal descriptions. Then, he looked straight at Veronica. His voice was completely devoid of emotion, which somehow made the truth hit harder. "Ma'am," he stated flatly, "this land is not HOA property. It's his. All of this area, up to the official marker, belongs to Mr. Hayes." Veronica froze, genuinely looking like she'd been hit by a very slow, very large bus. "What? No, that's impossible. The HOA president didn't tell me that." I cut her off right there. I had to deliver the line. "Maybe he didn't tell you, Veronica, because he, President Chad himself, is already in serious trouble for approving fake violation fines and improperly seizing residents' land." Her head snapped toward me, her eyes wide with fear now, not rage. "What are you talking about?" I slid out the second page from the folder. It wasn't my deed. It was a photocopy of an official document I had helped compile, the complaint list. Names, dates, signatures, all tied to the same corruption. It was the preliminary report the county investigators had started last month, a report I had been helping them build and finalize. Officer Miller actually whistled softly under his breath. "Ma'am," he said, holding the paper up for James to see. "This is beyond a property dispute. This is serious." Veronica stumbled back a step, waving her hands in a desperate plea. "Wait, he's lying. He has to be lying. This is a setup." I stepped in close, looked her dead in the eyes, and let the quiet satisfaction settle into my voice. "Veronica, you should really stop assuming people are powerless. You called 911 on the one person you really, truly shouldn't have." Her voice cracked, sounding small and frail for the first time all afternoon. "And who exactly are you?" I let a slow, genuine smile, the most satisfying smile I have ever smiled, pull at the corner of my mouth. "Let's just say I'm the reason the county finally stopped ignoring your HOA's complaints and is now actively investigating your little property seizing operation." And for the first time since I had stepped off that ladder, Veronica went completely silent. Her face twisted into a truly cinematic mask of pure, unadulterated rage mixed with utter, blinding panic. The officers now had the deed, the recording, and even the HOA's own complaint list, a paper trail proving she had been acting on false pretenses and outright lying to a 911 operator. She tried one last, sputtering bluff, yelling something about illegal signs and my overall attitude, but Miller just shook his head, closing the folder and handing it back to me. "Ma'am, you are done here," he said firmly, his authority absolute. "Everything, and I mean everything, points to Mr. Hayes. You're the one in violation, falsifying claims, and interfering with private property. We will be filing a full report detailing your 911 call and subsequent false claims. Her knees nearly buckled. She was beaten, exposed, and humiliated. I calmly walked back over to the sign. With Miller watching, I knelt down, removed the sign from the ground, and deliberately, methodically, put it back up exactly where it had been, just to make a point. "Veronica," I said, looking up at her stunned, defeated face. "Maybe next time, check the facts and the legal documents before you call the police on your neighbor." As she muttered some incoherent, furious nonsense and finally, slowly, stormed off toward her house, Miller gave me a final, quiet nod. "Stay on your land, sir. And don't worry. The paperwork will speak for itself. You'll be hearing from the county soon about their investigation progress." I watched her go, a small, quiet victory settling over me. Then, the real good part, my wife and 2 kids came running out of the house, shaking their heads, but smiling ear to ear. Justice had been served without a single punch thrown, without a shout, just documentation. And the neighborhood, which had been peeking out from behind their curtains the whole time, finally saw Veronica for the genuine chaos and fraud she truly was. As I stood there looking at my little piece of property, that small, newly signed strip of land, my heart swelled. I didn't buy this property just to argue with a Karen. I whispered to myself, remembering why I went to all this trouble. I bought it to protect what's mine, to secure the peace my family deserves, and to finally put an end to the abuse of power in this community. Today, I did exactly that. But here's the thing, and this is where I want to know what you think. The HOA president, Chad, he's still technically in charge until the county finishes their investigation. Veronica might be on the ropes, but this isn't over. Was my move too aggressive? Should I have waited for the county to act? Or was calling her bluff with the deed and the investigation report the perfect way to expose her? Let me know in the comments below. What would you have done in that situation? Did I go too far? Or was this the only language an HOA bully truly understands? Drop your thoughts. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this story of suburban vengeance. And don't forget to subscribe for more crazy HOA stories and updates on my ongoing war for neighborhood sanity. I'll see you in the next one.